and welcome to Against the Odds. I'm Jan Powell, and in this podcast, I'm asking some extraordinary people what made them winners when the odds were stacked against them, and how did they overcome those life-changing obstacles, and what have they learned along the way? All our guests have been affected directly or indirectly by HIV/AIDS, and we'll be finding out about the challenges they've faced and what inspires them to strive for what they believe in.
What I've learned about HIV so far has made me care enough to walk and advocate for this cause, even though I'm not doing it perfectly, but I'm willing to learn, and just being approached by the right people at the right time has made me realize how important it is for me to continue doing what I'm doing. Even every day it has more meaning. We as the general public need to understand what HIV really is.
That was adventurer, traveller, ex-ballet dancer and above all, walker Jonatan Montoya. Jon has set out on a staggering journey to go right round the world on foot, visiting each of the 7 wonders of the modern world, a massive journey of over 50,000 miles. The sheer ambition is enough to take your breath away. Jon was born and grew up in Mexico City, and after troubled teenage years, he admits he has struggled to find his purpose in life. But during the COVID lockdown, inspiration came to him, and the 7 Wonders Walk was born. We caught up with Jon recovering after completing the first stage of his journey to the first wonder, the Temple of Chichen Itza in Mexico, a grueling 2,000 miles. Hi, Jonatan. How are you feeling?
Hello, Jan. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited, nervous.
Me too. Don't be nervous, for goodness sake. How are your feet, more to the point? You've done the first 2,500 kilometres.
You know, I'm amazed that I have gotten a few pedicures and they still look so unpresentable. I'm ashamed of going to the pool.
Oh, really? What, covered in calluses and scrapes?
You know, on the last leg of the journey, I changed my shoes. I got new shoes, and you should never do that, but I really needed a new pair. So my toenails, this is gross, became purple. So they are just growing, and the blood that is inside is just coming up like dirt. So it looks terrible.
That sounds disgusting. I wish I hadn't asked you that question.
But it's not painful. It's not painful. It's just bruises in the toenails.
But those wounded toes carried you through to the first wonder, Chichen Itza, which is a Mayan temple, I think. Fabulous ancient Mayan city. How did you feel when you got there?
Terrible. Not many people know this, but when I arrived to the archaeological sites, the reporters had contacted the archaeologists that worked there to ask their permission to film inside of the archaeological site. And since they learned about what I was doing when I arrived, they did allowed me to enter to a VIP office, and I felt very welcome at that time. I was like, oh, well, they're really happy that I'm here, but they just took me there to let me know that I will not be allowed to record anything or to document anything about my arrival, because they consider what I was doing pure self-promotion. So I had planned a live stream of my arrival to celebrate with the people that is following my journey, and all the feelings that I had for 150 days walking. I couldn't. There was no release. There was no climax. I was just like, you're allowed to enter, but yeah.
So disappointing. That's just awful. Jonatan, before we really get talking about this little walk of yours, I'd like to know a little bit more about you and what got you to this point that you're taking on this absolutely incredible challenge. You're 32 years old, right? And you grew up in Mexico City. So what were your parents like, and what were you like as a kid?
Oh, well, my parents were very young, inexperienced. My mother was an orphan at the time of my birth. My grandmother passed away 1 month before I was born. So my mother found herself in a marriage with this 18-year-old rock and roll bad boy from the block that was my father, which at the time was already an electrician, but also one of the first tattoo artists in the city. And yeah, they were very rock and roll together, just having children, I guess.
Your mum was quite a character, wasn't she? She had some pretty interesting ideas on child rearing, and that really brings us straight away to your first against the odds story. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, of course. It actually is my favorite moment whenever I think about myself as a child and about her. She learned from the women around her to cure me from various illnesses, performing small rituals like rolling an egg upon my body, blowing smoke cigar in my ears, and putting plants behind my ears or in my pillow. These things are done mostly to liberate those, especially babies like me at the time. I was a very fat baby who had been given the evil eye, sometimes unintentionally by a family member or a stranger. This happens just a stranger comes to you and just, I don't know, says how beautiful you are, and that's just enough to get the evil eyes. This is why it's unintentional, and people carry energy and so on. So yeah,
so she had all these strange things, all these strange ideas about how she could prevent that.
I mean, the bad thing was that when you have an infection, you get fever, and sometimes because they are trying to cure you with an egg and with plants, the fever goes very high. And my mother remembers now with a little bit of guilt that the fever went so high that I started hallucinating. So it was, I'm sure it was fun sometimes, and sometimes it was scary. And well, maybe this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, because something happened to me back then.
But you survived it. You got through. I mean, some of these old wives' tales, these old wives' remedies do work. I mean, I remember my mum putting olive oil in my ears when I had, I don't know, sore ears or something. But no, rolling eggs and blowing, what was it? Blowing cigar smoke?
Blowing cigar smoke, yeah.
Probably not ideal, but you survived. Your rock and roll dad, tell me something about him.
My dad, he was so fun back then. He would buy rock and roll magazines and make these and frame the posters, all the artwork for the bands that he liked. He would drew on my skin, like I had tattoos as well, because his arms and legs, he's full of tattoos, and he would just take a pen and drew on my skin. I have this funky haircut. When my friends see photos from when I was a child, they just laugh because I had this weird 90s rock and roll haircut. I was just a little toy for my father.
So you were like a little cool kid?
Yeah. Well, now it doesn't seem so cool, and I was made fun a lot at school, but because my father cut my hair. So yeah, maybe not so cool.
You survived against the odds. An incident with your dad, didn't you? Tell me about his time with the pirate record stall.
That was fun. I mean, when I was 15 years old, my father and I had a pirate record stall on a bus stop. We never sold much because we will only sell rock and roll and heavy metal CDs, unlicensed, of course. And I used to sit there playing my favorite albums, talking to all sorts of interesting characters and rock music fans. Until one day, it was summer. It was almost my birthday, I think. A bus driver on his first day of work lost control of his vehicle and crashed against my stall. That's the first time that I made it to the news, by the way.
Wow.
I should have died that day, but somehow I end up between a lamppost and the bus from Pano, completely unharmed. And I can say about that time that I still find heavy metal music relaxing, and that I consider myself lucky just for surviving. I have this, because, I mean, the past is just a story that we tell ourselves. At the time, a man helped me out of this, all the metal and so on, and I didn't remember his face, and I always remembered that man as an angel or something like that, and because I couldn't remember him. And then one day, years later, I was walking in the street, and this man comes to me and says, "Hey, Jonathan, hello, how are you? Blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Well, I'm good. Who the hell are you?" And he says, "I'm the one that helped you come out of the metal and so on." And then he says goodbye to me, and I start walking, and I'm smiling. I'm so happy that I get to thank this man, and instantly I forget about his face again, and I only remember that moment. So it's so mysterious. And I never saw him again. I don't remember his name or his face. And I like to believe that maybe it was an angel.
You've got your guardian angel there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Why not?
Yeah. And and if that's the case, I hope he's there beside you now as you're thinking about this next really big challenge. I mean, this little walk you've embarked on, Jonathan, it's no small ambition. I can't plan what I'm doing 7 weeks ahead, let alone starting on a mission that's going to last 7 years. Where on earth does that come from in your psyche? What on earth was it that gave you this idea? Has it come from that childhood?
My upbringing was so strange. I mean, my parents, when I was 15, they just opened the door and said, "Do whatever you want with your life from now on. We support you." So I did all kinds of things, and I've been just looking for my place in this world, and I consider that blessing and a curse that I have this brain that compels me to do these things. I was thinking today about the time that I've had recently it's been a moment of contemplation on what I want from life, and thinking, having this time for myself, not walking. I was healing my mind, my body, my spirit, and this exercise has been very painful, because contemplation does not always deliver insight relating to your practical life. And right now I'm just in the middle of self-reflection, insight, doubt, melancholy. I don't know, it's such a challenge.
But at the beginning, what was it right at the beginning? What was that, inspiration that said, I'm going to go on this walk? Was there a moment when you just thought, I'm going to get out of whatever I'm doing now and I'm going to start something big?
It was September 15, year 2020, 7 months into the pandemic lockdowns. That afternoon, I had lunch with a friend that had just recently visited Petra in Jordan. Talking to him about that journey, the way he described it, that's when I remembered the new 7 wonders of the world. And in the middle of the night, it was past midnight, I couldn't sleep. And it was one of those moments where you just talking to yourself, asking yourself, like you're two different people, like, what do you want? If your life changed tomorrow for whatever reason, what would you do? What would you do if you knew you could not fail, that you would have success at what you would do? So I said to myself, I would walk around the world. And the idea seemed so simple, and it seemed to come from a place so innocent and pure and playful that it just stayed with me for a whole month. And even though I know that I made the decision to do what I'm doing that night, at that moment, I kept it for myself for a month, just researching, because I had no experience at the time, outdoors activities or anything like that. And
really? So you weren't a Boy Scout? You hadn't gone camping or walking when you were a kid?
I mean, with my grandfather, yes, walking, to places like to the woods, but never camping or doing anything like that. People, when I started walking, sent me messages because they used to see my first videos, and they're like, "You are setting your tent wrong. Don't put your wet clothes inside." So they were just in one way teaching me and also teasing me about my inexperience, which is very
Yeah, I think actually, you probably wouldn't take on something in an ideal world. You wouldn't take on such a giant first project. You'd kind of, do a couple of weeks holiday and then see if you like camping, or try it out a little bit. There's this program on UK television on survival. This explorer goes out in the backwoods and shows you how to find water from cactus roots or build a shelter in a storm, that kind of thing. It's very popular, but it's mostly popular with people who will never leave the comfort of their own sitting room. They like to see somebody else doing it, but you weren't like that, were you? You just thought, I'm just going to try, I'm just going to do it.
Yes, I mean, I wasn't like that. And when I researched, because that's what you do now, you Google your dreams to see who's doing it at the time. And there's this very generous kid from New Jersey walking with his dog. And I say generous because he documented everything in the beginning for 5 years. There's videos of him walking with his dog around the world. He's just about to finish his own quest. And so I was just looking at his videos and saying, okay, he seemed unexperienced as well. He just injured himself. He's feeling lonely, blah, blah, blah. So I said, yeah, okay, if he can do it, I can do it. Yeah, people think that when you do this, you camp every night and you light a fire and you cook your own meals. But it's not like that, at least not for me, because since I have no experience outdoors, I have found myself walking on highways a lot. And camping, if you can call it camping, or putting my tent on in a garden in a church or in a police station or in a hospital. So, yeah, I don't feel it's camping. It's just like I'm this crazy nomad, always dirty, sweaty, hungry, and tired. Yeah, it's been hard. It's been hard.
Just map out for us, in an ideal world, where you'll be going. Is it straight from one wonder to the next, or are you taking in different places and activities en route? How are you planning this? Is it just to get to the next place along the highway, or are you trying to see the country as you go through it?
Well, walking in Mexico, because I didn't took the fastest route for two reasons. One, the fastest route between Teotihuacan, the city of gods in Mexico City, to Chichen Itza, it goes through the worst states in Mexico, where is the narco traffic, migration, forced migration, how do you say that, people trafficking?
Yeah,
is that a thing? Yeah. So those states, there are 3 states that are famous for that, so I had to avoid those. So I went on the opposite direction and walked for 150 days, just so you can imagine, visualize Mexico. We have this frontier with Guatemala and with the United States. The immigrants that want to cross Mexico to go into the United States, they walk about 1,800 kilometers just to go. Yeah. And I have walked to this day 3,376 kilometers, which is almost double of that. So just because...
In a big circle round that main route.
Yes.
Just going around. Oh, my goodness, Jonathan, that's no mean feat.
Now it seems so silly that I did that, but I enjoyed it. I mean,
as you go on, you're planning each leg of the journey, piece by piece, to work out which is the best way.
Well, as you said earlier, you don't know what you are going to be doing in 7 months or whatever. I know that this trip, in numbers, it's a 7 years project. So right now, for me, I need to visualize just from Chichen Itza to Machu Picchu. There are 9 countries. And I want to hike more and walk less on the highways. So I need to find the hiking trails that are available in these countries to walk. Yesterday, I started sending volunteering requests so I can work as I walk, to stay in one place in Guatemala and do the hiking trails that are available around the volcanoes in Lake Atitlan, just so it's more enjoyable for me and it's better for my mental health. And also, I'm going to need money to finance this journey along the way. So,
I've never done anything on the scale of your walk, John, but I've travelled quite a bit. And for me, one of the most interesting things about the journey isn't always the great site that you get to or the ancient castle that you visit. On the journey itself, it's often the things that happen, the people you meet, the odd serendipitous things that happen as you go. Does that resonate for you? Have you had some interesting experiences on the way, met the kindness of strangers, or at least had laughs with strangers? Has that happened?
Completely. I have, and I can say this, I have fallen in love so many times. But it's a different kind of love. It's just that people is so kind, so generous, so innocent. They are devoted to their craft, to their family, away from the cities. People do live differently and they look different, they sound different, they have different problems. It's amazing. And to me, most people has always been kind. So yeah, the journey has been, I measured the journey in the amount of people that I have fallen in love with.
Can you describe one? Can you describe a couple of the people that you've met that have stayed with you?
Right after, well, there's this family. Just I had been walking for 3 or 4 weeks, and I arrived with a family of. They have 8 children, but they are famous in their little town because they make this amazing, delicious Mexican dish called chiles rellenos, and they have even a festival. It's a big celebration there, and it happened. It was going to happen 2 weeks after my departure, so they just went out of everything to get all the ingredients to cook that dish for me in the day that I arrived, so I could leave the day after just tasting it. And
what is it? Tell us about it.
It's just this big chili, and it's filled with meat, with fruit. It's super. It's like sweet. I'm gonna send you a picture, and you will have to try it.
It sounds amazing.
From that day on, I just kept eating them because it was season in that region, and I ate so much that I got sick, of course. But that's me. I wanted to have them every day, and yeah, they're amazing.
For people who don't, do that kind of adventure, there's always this feeling that people are going to be, bad things are going to happen. People are going to rob you. You're going to end up in experiencing the worst side of humanity. But it's nice to know that on this journey so far, it's been the reverse for you. People have been kind. You've had good times. It's been hard for you physically to do the walk, but you've had some good experiences in the people you've met.
Totally. Always, especially the media, they want, when they ask you questions like, how is it? Have you had this and this and this and that? I've been avoiding. I've been very lucky, and I'm very thankful to the people that told me in time not to walk in certain areas, to walk just from 9 to, 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and then find a safe place to sleep. Because, yeah, there's a lot of crime going on, but I was lucky enough and curious. You need to put yourself in the hands of the people that live in these areas. And I have been lucky because it's mostly women that when they see me walking, they think of their own sons, husbands, and family members that, a woman when they see me, I can feel they see a child, someone's child.
You do look young, that is true, but not exactly
Yeah.
a child, John, but you know.
But someone's
So
someone's
you've brought out the kind heart in people as they've seen you struggling along the road all by yourself.
Well, yeah, they are very curious. So, like, their question always is, where is your family? Why are you doing this? Are you married? And I have to say that some of those mothers, they were very eager to introduce me to their daughters, which is fun. It was super, super fun.
One of the reasons you've decided to do this walk is to raise awareness and to raise money for HIV and AIDS. And that's the serious, deep purpose behind this whole expedition of yours. Would you like to tell us why you've chosen that particular cause, why it's personal to you, and why you think it's important?
Of course, in the beginning, when it was just the Seven Wonders Walk, this challenge, I didn't have a cause to support. But then thinking about it, feeling deeply about what I wanted to support or raise awareness for, I remember there was a time when I got tested compulsively for HIV just because my sex life started very young, and I could see how friends, boyfriends, partners, and sexual partners got infected over the years, and that made me a little bit paranoid about it. I mean, in one hand I had this lust for life, and on the other hand I had this deep fear that I was going to get infected as well. And it's a terrible way of living, because I renounced pleasure so much so that at some point I even went celibate for a year, just because I didn't want it to get tested anymore. And it's terrible when you are waiting for the results and you know that you've been a little bit irresponsible in your sex life, or I don't know. So yeah, it's mostly because of that I had that feeling. And I love that there's been 40 years of history here of what I call the real heroes, those people that are working so sex and sexual health is available for all.
Well, I'm not sure they're the real heroes. I think the real heroes are the people who are actually living with HIV and are coping and managing. For me, those are the people that are actually the heroes of all this. It's just a virus, but it happens to be one that at one time was so deadly. And how do you think the walk can help? How do you hope that it's going to improve the situation? Is it raising awareness? Can people help are you raising money?
In one hand, it seems like raising awareness is a big thing, but I've had the opportunity to talk with doctors and activists that have been doing work in Mexico for almost 30 years. When I see the conditions that they've been working for so many years, it feels, I don't know, it feels so weird just doing this, just walking.
Because what? Because they are failing to make progress, or because...
Yes, because they say that even though with all the work we've been doing for years, we still get 40 to 50 adolescents each month that get infected, and it's not enough because there's no massive campaigns that help us get this message through. And the money that I'm raising through the app that I'm using, Charity Miles, that goes to an organization called RED, created by Bono and Bobby Shiver. And the work they're doing is in Africa, but right now I am working in Mexico. So I do get a little bit existential about what I'm doing. Like, if you want to help, maybe you should be doing something different, not just walking. But I'm learning as I go, and this is such a long journey that I don't know in the end what I will be doing just to really, really help.
Talking about Mexico, the fact that there is still this high level of infection happening, it sounds like there's just a failure somewhere in the communication. Is it still the case in Mexico that there is a lack of willingness to talk about HIV, or are people still unwilling to talk about it publicly? Is that the problem? So it's just considered to be something that's not important anymore?
Talking specifically about young people and HIV and every HIV-related issue, specifically in Latin America, we are living in a culture full of double standards and stereotypes. It's a male-dominated culture, misogynistic, homophobic. Even gay men and men who have sex with other men express this homophobia, including me, and sometimes I don't even notice, which is terrifying because I get told a lot like I'm not using the right vocabulary, and I'm in the middle of this, and I feel so guilty because, as I said, I'm learning as I go, and we are taught that heterosexuality is the norm and the correct way to be, and when you have this inner dialogue, it's hard to talk about HIV. The only people that is talking about this virus is the people that works around it or that lives with it, and there's just people doesn't feel safe to say like a mother or a normal like a person in the society. It's just gay people that is talking about this, and the activists, and people doesn't know or doesn't realize that it's everywhere and it affects people from everywhere.
And the crazy thing is, it's so treatable and it's so controllable, and the only thing that seems to be stopping this from being something that's either preventable or controllable is just being able to talk about it. I guess it's easy to say that, but you grew up with this your teen years, so you must have been particularly aware of it.
I'm no expert, of course, but what I've learned about HIV so far has made me care enough to walk and advocate for this cause, even though I'm not doing it perfectly, but I'm willing to learn, and just being approached by the right people at the right time has made me realize how important it is for me to continue doing what I'm doing. Even every day it has more meaning. We as the general public need to understand what HIV really is, and maybe that's what I can do. Just educate more and share as I learn more than educate.
For our next Against the Odds signpost, I want to ask you about your venture into the world of dance, because I've got a feeling that it somehow links with this big walk of yours. I guess it's another way of expressing yourself through physical action. You almost became a dancer, didn't you? Can you tell us how that happened?
Yes, I almost did become a dancer. I am blushing. 1 year after the bus incident, I auditioned for a school dance program at the most prominent cultural center in Mexico City, because that's how cheeky I am. This place is called the Palace of Bellas Artes. Maybe I'm saying that wrong. It's a national theater, very big here. And I got admitted, which is super fun because I had never ever practiced ballet or even seen a live performance. I wasn't educated or raised that way. I was so young, and I had never met a real dancer in person ever. I don't think that there was in that group someone as unprepared as me, but after a month of trials, I made the final cut of 20 out of 250 boys from all country regions and backgrounds. Oof. And on the last day, when the teachers gathered us to welcome us at the main theater, they told us to turn right and walk out of stage. And of course, me being me, I was so nervous that I turned left, but I kept walking, and I walked out of stage on the opposite direction. And in the end, that's what I did. almost 4 years later when I decided that I didn't want to be a dancer, and I just walked out of that stage too, thanking everybody.
What kind of dancing was it?
Go.
Classical dancing or?
You know, it's a special program. They were just trying out to get more male dancers involved because there wasn't enough. So in my school, there were like 300 girls and just 20 boys. And we would be there because girls need, when you study ballet or folkloric dance or even contemporary dance, you need that balance. They didn't want it just the school for girls.
No, but 20 to 300 doesn't sound like a good balance, Jonathan.
It was enough because in the plays you only have one prince.
Oh, that's true. Yes. So
there's only just one prince. And
one prince. There's usually
one
there should be one prince
and
one princess. But you mean there's one prince but it's the entire chorus, isn't it? There's the girls' chorus.
Yeah, and the girls would dress as men a lot just to fill up the gaps. And it was this special program for men over 15 years old. So yeah, I got lucky, and I don't think the program is running anymore. I think it wasn't successful.
Well, they obviously didn't choose the right boys. If you left, they weren't doing very well in their selection process. Why did you leave?
Well, seeing up close that world, I knew it wasn't for me. I was never going to be good enough, and I was getting injured a lot, and I was still in school. So I was like, it sounds like a cliche, but to be a dancer, you do need that, especially a ballet dancer. You do need that training from a very young age, and I knew that I was always going to be this good average dancer, and I also realized I didn't have the same passion as everybody else. And as I said, I was getting injured a lot. And at the time, I was doing yoga because I got injured very badly on the right leg. And just to regain mobility, I started doing yoga. And my teachers, they told me, you are very violent with your body. You want to take it to extremes always. And this is because of your dancing training. So be more kind to yourself. And in the end, that relationship with my body made me want to become a yoga teacher. So I got certified and I started teaching just right away.
This relationship with your body, I mean, maybe it carries over into this walk. The dance, the yoga, it's obviously you express yourself physically through these activities that you do. So maybe the walk is a kind of artistic activity. A friend of mine has just been to Santiago del Compostela in Spain. It's the end of the Camino de Santiago walk. And he said there was an exhibition there by a British artist called Hamish Fulton. Don't know whether you know him. He's a man who's been walking all his life. He's been walking since 1971. And he says his walk is his art. And as he goes, he takes photographs, he describes, he writes about the places that he visits, and he does these interesting sounding graphics. And then he has these exhibitions every so often. And he says it's the relationship, it's a kind of spiritual thing, and it's the walk itself is an expression of his art. Does that resonate? Does that make sense to you?
Completely. In the beginning, I didn't make the connection because in my mind, I had quit being an artist. I became this yoga teacher. And that relationship that you mentioned, I didn't felt it for the first month. I was just walking very, very fast. So it felt like a sport. But some days it did felt like art. We are performing all the time. Right now, it does feel like a performance. And I don't know why I have this idea in my head. Maybe because the world is so crazy and I feel crazy doing what I do. At some point, I started seeing myself as a character in the Simpsons show.
Which one? Or an extra one?
As myself.
Yeah.
As an extra one. Yeah, as me in that world, in that yellow world, so crazy. And But yeah, definitely walking has made me more aware of this artistic person, this performer that I am right now, and I'm thinking it through. How can I make more art as I go? And this is why I'm sending volunteering requests, so I have that opportunity to think and to make video, to I don't know, to play more with this, to have more fun doing what I do.
Yeah, that brings us to, you've been doing the first part of this journey alone, but I know you've been thinking about that a little bit, and you found that quite difficult. And you're now thinking about trying to perhaps bring other walkers to join you for parts of the journey. Is that right?
Well, I have received a lot of requests from people that they say that they want to walk with me. And at some point, I accepted for a Swiss guy to walk with me 5 days, and it was really nice. Now that I'm going to be doing more hiking and avoiding dangerous zones and highways, it will be easier for me to accept or to bring with me either artists or activists or just regular folks that want to experience what it's like to, as I say, walk for a living.
And sharing it with you. Yeah.
Building that relationship with their body and yeah, sharing it with me and talking and just being there. I'm done walking alone. That I know.
Yeah. And the first part of it sounds like you were walking on these main roads all by yourself. It conjures up a lonely figure there. Was your choice to go on the main roads because of the dangerous situation of walking into places where there was less security, or was it just, this is the way to the next town, I'd better stick on that main road?
It was different on each state because they do things differently. So if I had one state where they had a lot of farms and so on, there are smaller trails that you can take. But most of the times there's just one main road nowadays connecting one city to the other. And even though I had GPS, it's very easy to get lost once you enter the woods. And if you want to go faster, let's say. So no, it wasn't a choice. I felt I had to do it like that just to get to the next place.
Well, I think yes, making it possible for people to join you is a great idea, because it's also a way of raising more money. People pay to join you. People pay to actually come along that piece of the journey, to share the journey with you, and to contribute to the cause. So it kind of makes sense.
What I would like right now is to bring more people into the project. So this is not just a solo act. I have no training raising money, building campaigns, making strategies. I don't know how, I can tell that, just speaking about one of the most famous activists, young activists at the time, this girl, Greta Thunberg. She's a child. She's now a teenager, but she started as a child. And you need a team that helps you build these movements. How can I make the Seven Wonders Walk into a movement where people walk with me, so we can walk together, so no one is left alone without shelter, food, with health, sexual health and mental health that is so important right now. That's my conundrum right now. That's where I'm at the moment. How can I make a bigger impact? And my answer is I need more people involved with this. I need an organization to make a commitment to
support, to provide that support. Well, bit by bit, when you're doing such a massive undertaking, it's got to be one step at a time. So, where is your next step going to take you towards? Which is the next wonder that you'll be going to?
I'm going to Machu Picchu in Peru. I have to go across 9 countries. And right now I'm just thinking about what I'm going to do next month. Is going to Guatemala and stay there all March and April, doing the hiking all around, and trying to build up the strategy as I go, because if I stay longer here, I'm going to start getting restless. I'm already feeling restless, so I need to keep going.
And after Machu Picchu, what's next?
Then is Christ the Redeemer in Brazil.
Right, and then from there?
I would fly to somewhere in Europe to get to the Roman Colosseum.
Oh, well, so hopefully we'll be able to see you there, Jonathan. I hope we'll be able to join you for a bit of that journey when you're in Europe. That would be amazing.
I would love to, yes, thank you.
And then from there?
From there is to Petra in Jordan.
Where your friend was.
Which is where my friend was and where everything started. He's to blame. And then from there is to India, to the Taj Mahal. How do you pronounce it in English?
Something like that. I think you said it right. Taj Mahal. That's how I've always said it.
Taj Mahal?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then to the Great Wall of China, which is, from the Taj Mahal to the Great Wall of China, I just see the map and I'm like, how am I going to do that? But I'm still here. I worry about that when I get there.
You've got a few years before you get there. You've got a few years before you get to that spot, John. When we talk about against the odds, this is probably the biggest challenge of your life as you set out on the next leg of this mammoth journey. Is there a single thing that keeps you going? Or are you really just taking it one step at a time, put the next foot in front, see where it leads?
I have this other motivation my journey is the journey of every person that right now is looking to live with purpose. And I built this purpose for myself because a year ago I felt that I needed that. I said to myself, I need to build a new purpose for myself, something that keeps me on my toes, excited, that makes me feel alive every day. And it has worked. I have felt so alive that some days I just want to die. Like everybody else, you have bad days and you're like, why am I doing this? But then you remember, this is what you wanted. You wanted to feel alive. You wanted to feel the pain. You wanted to see things so you would care about the needs of other people, not just your own. And that's my motivation now.
It's been a huge pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much, Jan. It's been a pleasure to me as well. It feels like therapy, a lot.
Since we recorded that conversation with John, he's decided to put his Seven Wonders walk on hold and is looking for other ways to promote AIDS awareness. Of course, we wish him luck in whatever he decides to do. Thank you so much for listening to Against the Odds. You can find more information and links in the podcast notes on unaids.org/podcasts. Do please share and subscribe to this podcast as it really helps us reach our growing audience. The podcast is presented by me, Jan Powell. The senior producer for UNAIDS is Charlotte Sector. Original music by Ken Nikravesh and Hugo Powell. Against the Odds is made by Powell Media for UNAIDS.